Hello guys, welcome back once again to my YouTube channel. So my name is Engineer Robles from the Bataan Peninsula State University. So yung topic natin for today is about heat fundamentals as well as heating systems for the subject heating, ventilating, air conditioning, and refrigeration. So to begin with, magkaroon naman tayo ng formal introduction regarding do sa heat fundamentals. So question is, what is heat? So heat is a form of thermal energy that is considered to be always on the move. So on the move meaning in transit, and that it is actually being dictated by disparities or differences in terms of yung temperature. So meaning, for as long as meron tayong temperature difference, there is what we call transfer or conveyance of heat. So, as suggested by the formula for heat, which is Q, which is mc delta T, a large temperature disparity would also suggest a high flow rate of heat. Or conversely speaking, kung mababa naman yung ating temperature difference, bababa din yung ating rate of heat transfer. So, referring to what we call the statement provided by Reeves, it suggests that the flow of heat would go or would flow naturally from a region of higher temperature to a region of lower temperature. So such movement of heat or heat transfer would continue to take place for as long as there is differences in temperature and would only cease to flow or take place when there is what we call thermal equilibrium, which is basically napakahirap o napaka-imposibleng mangyari. Kasi there is no known place in the universe or galaxy kung saan meron tayong same temperature. So once again, if we are to refer to the statement provided by Reeves, ibig sabihin meron tayong two or more thermally differing bodies. So in this case, let's say for example, meron tayong two thermally differing bodies, a hot body and then that of a cold body. And then, since meron tayong disparity or differences in terms of yung temperature, naturally, yung heat coming from the hot body would be transferred towards the location of the cold body. So, in this case, mag-lose ngayon ng certain heat as well as temperature sa hot body, malilipat ngayon siya kay cold body. So, in this case, since nabawasan ngayon ng corresponding temperature yung ating hot body, still magti-take place pa rin yung tinatawag nating concept called heat transfer, pero basically mababa na ngayon yung conveyance ng heat. So yung concept natin ng heat transfer would continue to take place for as long as meron tayong tinatawag na temperature difference until it comes to a point in time kung saan pares na ngayon yung corresponding temperature ranges natin. So in this case, both bodies as well as yung pinaka-surrounding natin has attained what we call thermal equilibrium setting. So in this case, yung value natin ng Q dito is set to be 0. Now we have two concepts of heat movement, so which is by the following. So meron tayong tinatawag na heat gain, which is characterized by gains or increases in surrounding temperatures, while heat loss naman is characterized or manifested by losses or decreases in terms of yung corresponding temperature. Now, shown here is an illustration showing the possible heat gains or heat losses in residential houses that could be found in the US or that of the North America region. So, yung pinaka-highest heat gains as well as heat losses taking place by ceilings as well as windows. So, pwede din mag-escape o magkaroon tayong additional heat by the walls, by the air leakages, and by the flooring. So, again, ang concept kasi natin na heat transfer is meron tayong two thermally different locations. So, ang tanong natin dito is, until when will such transfer heat take place? So this will continue to take place until a body or system has reached an absolute zero temperature. So dahil sinabi ko sa inyo kanina, it is actually quite impossible to have an absolute zero temperature setting sa isang possible location. So ang absolute zero temperature value is the lowest possible temperature wherein all life in the universe or galaxy would eventually cease to exist. So let's say for example, meron tayong isang dead body or dead person. So, even though patay na yung tao na to, still yung tao na to possesses a certain amount of heat. So, another one is, pwede ba natin pigilin yung transfer of heat? So, heat is considered to be important or essential for any system or process, as in losses or gains could affect system performance. Heat transfer cannot be stopped as there is always a temperature difference in the surroundings. Though it cannot be stopped or prevented, heat loss or heat gains can be minimized by the use of the following materials we call as insulators. So we have here fire retarding plastic sheets. So we also have here what we call bricks, and the last one we have clay or mud. Now, do remember or keep in mind that all substances, whether it solids, liquids, and gases, are all affected by changes in temperature, which is characterized by a thermal contraction or thermal expansion of such substances. So, in thermal expansion natin is due to increases in temperature, and thermal contraction naman is due to decreases in temperature. So, yung intensity of thermal or heat energy being possessed by substances is characterized by the movement of its internal atoms. So, lahat ng bagay meron siyang molecules as well as atoms. So, kapag bumagal ang movement ng ating atom, it has low thermal or heat energy content. And then, habang bumibilis yung ating atom movement, it has a higher heat or thermal energy. So, ang dapat lang natin tandaan dito is that atoms, when heated, do not actually increase in terms of its corresponding size. Rather, it is the spacing in between molecules that actually changes. So, sa case ng solids natin, yung collision of the internal molecules or that of the atoms is manifested by increases in terms of its size or volume. So, nagtutulakan dito yung ating mga atoms. So, in this case, yung original boundary niya, ma-exceed na niya, no? So, for liquids naman, yung expansion niya ng kanyang mga internal atoms is characterized by the liquid overflowing. And then lastly, in the case of gases naman, increases in temperature in the case of gases make the atoms of such gases to occupy a greater amount of volume. So, in this case, kung papasin natin, kung meron tayong balloon, tapos imamount natin doon sa pinaka-lid ng ating pinaka-bottle, which is actually immersed in a hot body of liquid, technically, magkakaroon tayo dito ngayon na increase in terms of yung size ng balloon itself. So, ano ba, o parehas lang ba yung heat as well as yung temperature? So, may mga cases kasi tayo wherein heat and then temperatures are always mentioned or would not exist without the other. So, magkaiba po sila technically in two possible aspects. So, first one, in terms of the unit being used. So, the second one is on how the word kinetic energy is actually being associated with them. So, ang kinetic energy is all about movement. So, temperature is measured and have units in terms of degree centigrade or degree Fahrenheit. So, small scale temperature ranges to, o po pwede din siya in terms of degree Kelvin or degree Rankine. So, absolute scale value to. So, on the other hand, heat is measured and have units in terms of kilojoule, BTU, otherwise known as British Thermal Unit, calorie, or other units of work. Kasi nga, basically, ang concept is for us to be able to perform work, kinakailangan natin ng energy. So, heat naman refers to the total kinetic energy, wherein, on the other hand, ang temperature naman refers to the so-called average kinetic energy. So, ano na ba yung mga possible modes on how heat is actually being transferred? So, we have three ways on how heat is eventually being transferred, and it's usually a combination of any of the following. So, meron tayong conduction, normally involving solids, convection normally involving fluids, so liquids as well as gases, and then via radiation. So classic example natin dito is yung heat coming from the sun. So sa radiation, it may take place with or without the presence of air or that of gases. So sa space, wala tayong presence ng tinatawag nating air. So basically, ang transfer ng heat natin dito is being done by the so-called invisible electromagnetic waves. So ang conduction is the transfer of heat by physical contact between neighboring atoms. So such case is typical in the case of solids. So although this will also take place in the case of solids, liquids as well as gases, but that it is more common to solids. Ang gases kasi is that yung atoms nila is much farther apart as compared sa tinutukoy nating solids as well as liquids. So convection naman is the transfer of heat via the presence of fluids. So again, pag sinabi natin fluids, we're referring to liquids as well as gases as the working substance. So it is characterized by the mass motion of fluids, popularly known as what we call convection currents. So ito yung sa liquid, in terms of the water, ito yung kumukulo-kulo, no? So ito yung natural circulation of the densities of the liquid when it is actually being heated. So whose natural tendency is to either move up and down. So convection in most cases always takes place along with conduction. Kasi nga basically, kailangan din natin ng presence ng solid. So kung papasin natin, classic example is when we heat water inside the casserole. So yung casserole being a solid, so hindi natin pwedeng initin basta-basta yung liquid without the presence of solids. So ito nga, no, classic example, nag-init tayo ng tubig sa isang casserole. Water being heated inside the casserole is a classic example showing the convection current. So when water is heated, the water particles are agitated. So nagkakagulo sila and reduce their density. So habang nababawasan yung density, gumagaan sila. So this enables them to move upwards. So concept noon is what we call buoyancy. So habang tumataas sila, nalalayo sila doon sa source ng heat. So habang lumalayo doon sa source ng heat, eventually bumabalik ang kanilang original density or weight. So technically speaking, bumibigat sila. So natapan ngayon na mas mabigat sila, so tendency nila is magsisink. So yun nga yung reason kung bakit na tayo nagkakaroon ng natural circulation or tinutukoy nating convection currents. So the sinking and then moving up of water particles is what we call or known as convection currents, and this would continue to take place for as long as water is being heated. So another classic example of tinutukoy nating convection currents, this time involving gases, in the case of a room being conditioned by an air conditioner. So ito rin basically yung reason kung bakit ang mga AC units natin are installed at a higher elevation. So, yung malamig nating hangin na binabato niya ng ating air conditioning unit is considered to be denser, mas mabigat yung malamig na hangin, no? So, technically speaking, since mas mabigat sila, ang tendency is magsisink sila. So, as heat is being absorbed by the conditioned air, ang tendency ngayon na density ng air eventually is gumaan. So ngayon, since mas magaan ngayon yung air molecules natin, so ang tendency nila is to move upwards. So yun nga yung reason kung bakit yung air conditioning unit natin should be mounted at the top. So the difference in densities create again what we call the convection current. So air conditioning units have fans installed as to better distribute or circulate yung tinutukoy natin cold conditioned air. Now, a convection process may either be considered to be natural or forced. So, ang natural convection does not make use of any mechanical means. So, siyempre, hindi tayo gagamit ng fan or blower. So in such a case, the movement of air is said to take place in a vertical manner. So upwards lang yung movement niya. So on the other hand, pag sinabi natin forced convection, gumagamit tayo dito ng isang mechanical device in the form of a fan or blower whose direction will take place according to the direction of how a fan or blower is actually being mounted. So normally, ang direction nito is sideways. So the last of the three modes of heat transfer, radiation tayo. So this one is the transfer of heat via the so-called invisible electromagnetic waves that carries light, such in that heat energy coming from an emitting source at the speed of light. So again, pag sinabi natin radiation, it may take place with or without the presence of air. So a classic example ng tinutukoy nating radiation is by the use of a microwave oven which makes use of invisible electromagnetic waves at a lower frequency called non-ionizing radiation. So, lower frequency radiation does not make our foods radioactive. Pero, kung iinitin natin yung same food over and over again, possibly, pwedeng maging radioactive yung iniinit natin pagkain. So, a little bit of trivia, wag na wag kayo mag-iinit ng breads or pastries by the use of microwave ovens kasi nga, ang tendency nito is magiging rock hard yung ating pastry or bread. So, ano yung reason? So, technically, on the case of microwave ovens, ang una nilang inaatake is yung tinutukoy nating water molecules. So, yung breads or pastries, technically, malambot siya because of being moist. So, meron siyang certain moisture content. So, since inaatake nung invisible electromagnetic waves coming from the microwave oven, yung ating low moisture content or low water content. So, basically, tumitigas ng rock solid yung ating breads or pastries. So, isa din tong reason kung bakit yung mga foods natin, mga ulam natin, madali siyang uminit. Kasi basically, pag sinabi natin ulam, medyo mataas yung kanyang water content. So, basically, pag nag-init kayo ng tubig sa isang tasa, napakabilis. Kasi nga, inatake ng microwave oven yung pinaka-water molecules niya. So, microwave ovens are quick and then efficient, channeling the heat energy by the so-called invisible electromagnetic waves to the water molecules or particles of the food. So, yung sinabi ko sa inyo kanina, yung transfer of heat natin is to take place at the speed of light. So, basically, natatransfer niya itong invisible electromagnetic waves at speeds of 300,000 kilometers per second or around 186,000 miles per second. So, maliliit lang sizes na microwave ovens but they use large amounts of electric energy. So, kung gagamitin nyo na madalas yung mga microwave oven sa bahay, definitely tataas yung electric bills nyo, no? So, as was mentioned earlier, mataas yung risk natin of contracting a disease when food is to be eaten repeatedly when heated inside such microwave oven. So, normally, nagkakaroon tayo ng cancer, no? So, as a means of protection, yung mga microwave ovens na to are encased inside strong metal boxes. And then another safety feature is doon sa pinaka-window ng ating microwave ovens. Papapasin nyo, parang meron tayong sticker kung saan meron tayong multiple holes. So, safety feature din yon para yung microwave energy, hindi siya lumabas by doon sa tinutukoy nating glass. So, ano bang possible units ng heat or what we call thermal energy? So, since heat is a form of energy that can be used to perform work, any units used referring to work may be used to identify each units. So, once again, ang possible units niya is joules, calorie, BTU. So, pwede din siya as feet pounds, kilogram, meter, or even hertz. So, ano ba yung tinutukoy natin BTU? So, para mas madagdagan yung kalaman nyo, ang BTU, which is what we call as, which is read as British Thermal Unit, is the amount of heat that is needed in order to raise the temperature of 1 pound of water 1 degree Fahrenheit. On the other hand, pag sinabi natin 1 calorie, it is considered to be the certain amount of heat that is needed in order to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water 1 degree centigrade. So what are the types of heat? So as we progress to future topics such as heat load calculations, one must be aware of the kinds of heat that should be accounted for. So we have two types of heat to obtain. So to obtain the total heat load. So first one, we have the so-called sensible heat. So unsensible heat is the amount of heat that is required to change the temperature of a substance without changing its form or piece. So ito yung kind of heat that can be measured by the use of a thermometer. So indefinite example, yung heat that is coming from the sun on a shiny day, no? On a sunny or hot day. And then, yung flame coming from a lighted or lit candle. So, the other kind of heat is what we call latent heat, which is a kind of heat that is actually being absorbed or released during a change in its state or form, but without a change in temperature. So, unlike yung sensible heat, ito cannot be measured. So, ano yung examples natin ito? So, water kept boiling at 100 degrees centigrade can have its contents fully evaporated. So, another one is kung mag-store tayo ng water inside the evaporator, inside the freezer, at 0 degrees centigrade at constant temperature, eventually it would solidify, turning into its solid form, which is ice. So, latent heat values. So, for water to change into steam, it would require some 2,501 kilojoules per kilogram mass of heat energy to be absorbed at constant temperature. So, ang tawag natin dito is what we call the latent heat of vaporization. So, conversely speaking, ito rin yung same amount, which is again 2,501 kilogram or kilojoules per kilogram. So, in this case, that is actually being needed to be released in order to convert steam back again once into its liquid form, which is water. So, tawag naman natin dito is what we call the latent heat of condensation. So, again, latent heat values tayo. For ice to turn back into water once again, in this case, mangailangan tayo ng 334 kilojoules per kilogram mass of heat. So, kinakailangan natin itong i-release at constant temperature, and this is what is known as what we call the latent heat of fusion. So, once again, yung same number, which is 334 kilojoules per kilogram of mass, pag na-absorb naman ito ng water, eventually magsusolidify yung water into its solid form, which is ice. So, ang tawag naman natin dito is what we call the latent heat of solidification. Now, to obtain the total heat load, which would become the basis for the total heating load of a space, i-add lang natin yung latent heat load as well as yung sensible heat loads. So, yung total heat has units expressed in terms of degree centigrade or degree Fahrenheit wet bulb temperature. So, to measure the total heat, gumagamit tayo ng tinatawag nating sling cyclometer. So, ang sling cyclometer, dalawa yung kanyang thermometer. So, mapapansin nyo, yung isang thermometer dito, meron tayong tinatawag na wetted cloth at its tip. So, in this case, ang dry bulb temperature natin dito, ang thermometer na walang wetted cloth, ang minimeasure niya is yung kanyang tinatawag na dry bulb temperature or simply the temperature for the sensible heat. And then, on the other hand, wet bulb temperature to, so, para naman to doon sa tinutukoy nating total heat. So, specific heat tayo. So, specific heat is described as the quantity of heat that is needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of substance 1 degree centigrade or 1 pound of a substance by 1 Fahrenheit degree. So, in this case, dapat yung tandaan is the same lang din yung change is small scale values of the temperature compared do sa change in the absolute value of the temperature. So, meaning, hindi nyo na kinakailangan convert yung value natin ng degree centigrade to degree Kelvin or degree Fahrenheit to degree Rankine kung kukuha natin yung changes in temperature or delta T. So for water, we have the following specific heats. So this is measured at sea level. So at constant pressure. So nangangailangan tayo ng number na 4.187 joules per gram degree centigrade o centigrade degree. Or in this case, since 1 calorie is equivalent to 4.187 joules, yung 4.187 joules magiging 1 calorie per gram of mass centigrade degree. So, pakibasa na lang yung mga other units. So, same number, tapos same units, although magkakaiba sila ng unit. So, thermal conductivity, which is represented by the letter which is K. All materials and then substances can be described as being insulators or conductors. So, yung ability to convey or conduct heat is described as what is known as what we call the thermal conductivity or simply E or conductors. So, yung thermal conductivity is not only applicable doon sa tinutukoy nating solids, kundi applicable din siya sa liquids as well as gases. So, meron tayo dito ang table showing the different thermal conductivities of solids, liquids, as well as gases. So, ang pinakamataas na thermal conductivity dito is in the form of diamond. Tapos, yung pinakamababang thermal conductivity naman is being possessed by the so-called air. So, kung meron tayong thermal conductivity, meron din tayong tinatawag ng thermal resistance. So, the exact opposite of K is R, which is known as what we call the thermal resistance. So, this is considered to be a material property that is possessed by insulating devices, which is a measure of a material's resistance to the flow of heat. So, again, for insulators, they have a higher R value compared to its K value. So, technically speaking, lahat ng building or house materials natin have a higher thermal resistance R. This is to eventually minimize yung tinatawag natin possible heat loss or heat gains. So, mainly kasi, pag sinabi natin house or building, ang nag-occupy dyan is yung mga tao. No? So, nagsisik sila ng human comfort o thermal comfort. So, what are the different types of heating medium? So, we have a variety of heating systems that makes use of differing working mediums. So, a heating medium is any substance, so pwede siyang solids, liquids, or gases, one that is able to convey heat that is actually being used in heating systems such as boilers, furnaces, as well as heat pumps. From a particular heat source to a desired location. So, this may be done either directly by the use of distributed heating systems or indirectly by making use of central heating systems. So, ano na nga ba itong tinutukoy natin heat conveying mediums? So, we basically have 4 mediums. So, and these are the following. So, first one, pinaka-common is air. Another one is steam. Then, third one is water. Then, another one is electricity. So, basically, yung air as well as water is basically free. So, it's abundant siya, no? So, sa steam naman, sa electricity, kinakailangan meron pa tayo isang device or equipment para ma-convert natin siya as is. So, first one is yung air, which is abundant in our surrounding. So, kailangan na lang natin i-filter out ito from possible odors or pollutants. So, air does not have a chemical symbol. Ano yung reason? Kasi ang air is actually a combination of different gases. So, first, a mixture by weight. So, meron siyang 78% nitrogen, meron siyang 21% oxygen, and then 1% of other gases. So, possibly, meron tayong carbon dioxide, argon, as well as hydrogen with variable amounts of water vapor. So, yung water vapor na to, ito yung tinutukan nating measured na tinutukan nating humidity. So, it functions as the heat conveying medium for warm air heating systems. So, pagka-air ang ginamit natin, ang ginagamit natin nitong means o way para ma-convert natin yung tinutukoy nating para ma-convey natin yung tinutukoy nating medium is by the use of ductings or air ducts. So on the other hand, meron tayong steam. Steam is the other heating medium that is used predominantly, which is a colorless, expansive, invisible vapor form of water. So steam may contain or form white clouds when the temperature of steam is suddenly exposed to a location with a lower temperature corresponding to its saturation temperature. So, in order to generate steam, water is needed to be heated at very high temperatures. So, in this case, the latent heat as well as sensible heats are eventually added. So, yung vaporization process natin could be further enhanced by also controlling the pressure. So, as in making use of a container being heated with the lid or that of a cover. So, technically, we have three kinds of steam. So, we have superheated steam, which is being produced at temperatures exceeding 100 degrees centigrade. And then, we also have what we call dry saturated steam. So, basically, at a temperature of 100 degrees centigrade. And then, meron na tinatawag na unsaturated steam or what we call wet steam. So, it is actually being produced at temperatures of lower than 100 degrees centigrade. So, superheated steam tayo is steam at a temperature of higher than its boiling point for the pressure which only occurs wherein all water has fully vaporized. So, steam has a better heating efficiency by the intensity or quantity of heat that is actually being transmitted or ability to be able to move or transfer heat. So, dry steam tayo. Dry steam is the gaseous form of water that is able to carry heat and then can travel around obstacles and then eventually reach areas that wet steam cannot eventually reach. So, it has a slightly lower pressure as well as temperature compared to the superheated steam. So, last one is meron tayong tinatawag na wet or unsaturated steam. So, a mixture which contains both water vapor or saturated vapor with liquid water droplets or with certain contents of moisture. So, vapor forms of steam turn into liquid or condensate as it is actually being exposed to a temperature lower than the corresponding temperature of its saturation pressure. So, tingnan natin yung discrepancy, no? So, sabi dito, compared to heated water, steam has a much better heating efficiency by the intensity of its heating capacity and then ability to be eventually able to transfer heat. So, steam has a much higher heating capacity as more heat is actually being required to vaporize water than just heat or energize heat. So basically, kaya nga pagdating sa mga planta, ang ginagamit nating medium para mapag-transfer ng heat is via steam. So mas mataas kasi yung capacity niya. So on the other hand, lumalabas, yung steam is able to enter areas or locations wherein heated water is unable to enter. So since yung steam is actually in vapor form, kahit meron tayong opening na makikita natin upwards, so ang tendency is tatakas at tatakas steam. So unlike sa water, kung meron tayong opening at the top, yung water is to stay put, no? So another one is that yung steam is able to transfer heat evenly or efficiently. So meron tayo ditong animated illustration of a heating system making use of a steam and then that of a hot water. So kung papasin natin dito, in the case of steam, meron tayong even heating. In the case of hot water, there is this possibility or probability na meron tayong uneven heating. So water or H2O is another abundant heating medium. It is a chemical compound of two gases in the proportion of 2 parts by weight of hydrogen to 16 parts by weight of oxygen. So having mixed with it around 5% of air by volume at atmospheric pressure. So kung titignan natin dito, base dito sa illustration natin, water has the ability to expand or move when heated with reference to its density. So again, pag hiniheat natin yung water, ang tendency niya is gumagaan yung kanyang weight. So in reference doon sa tinutukoy nating density. So which is what we call, leading to what we call the concept called buoyancy, which is the difference, which is basically the difference of density. So this expansive property of water is used in natural circulation or movement of water in boilers and in hot water systems. So basically, ang movement ng water natin inside such boilers or hot water systems is coming from the bottom before eventually mag-move siya upwards. So when water is actually being heated, its density decreases, thus are considered to be lighter and are able to move upwards. So as it moves further, its density increases, thus are considered to be heavier. So naturally, magsisik siya ng kanyang place which is downwards. So yung difference in densities promote a natural circulation process known as what we call convection currents. So the last of all heating mediums is yung tinutukoy natin electricity, which are basically moving charged particles called electrons. So they move from one atom into another, thus another medium wherein heat may be moved from one point into another. So such electrical energy is then converted into heat. So sa pamamagitan to ng paggamit natin ng mga different electric devices. So most commonly, tinutukoy natin electric fired furnaces as well as electric heaters. So heating systems na tayo, doon na tayo sa ating second part ng ating discussions. So ano na ba yung mga heating systems natin that is actually available in the market? So heating systems are considered to be mechanisms that are used to provide heating. So ang ginagamit natin dito normally is heated air as well as heated water in a space, normally a structure such as homes, buildings, offices, and other dwellings for human comfort or for thermal comfort as they are located in cold weather locations. So yung thermal energy may come from a single source or multiple sources as in hybrid systems and may be either in centralized or distributed systems. So, ano na ba yung mga heating systems natin? So, sa US, typically a cold weather location, it accounted for the largest expense when it comes to heating their homes, offices, or dwellings. So, this accounted for around 30 to 50% of the annual energy bills, no? So, kung titignan natin yung figure, ang pinakamataas na nagko-consume ng heating is yung space heating as well as water heating. So, making up for the large shares using either electricity, natural gas, and other kinds of fuels. So, yung use natin ng heating systems, yung use ng heating systems natin using fuels, particularly fossil fuels, contributed to billions of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So eventually nga, papabilis nito ang ating climate change. So yung coal-fired boilers and then wood stoves or fireplaces being the main contributors of such pollutants. So efforts are actually underway to cut pollution outputs and then fuel bills by making use of high-efficient heating fuels which are available nowadays. So upgrading furnaces and then boilers to high-efficient models can eventually reduce yung tinutukoy nating carbon dioxide emissions by around 1 to 2 tons or 1,000 to 2,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide kilogram per year. So again, ano yung tinutukoy nating heating system? So it is considered to be a system that replaces lost heat in buildings, homes, offices, etc. So ano yung reason? This is due to the extreme cold of the harsh environment outside. So we have 4 factors in determining the heat energy requirements of a space, and these are, for number 1, where such structure is to be located. So habang malamig yung location natin, eventually it would require large amounts of heating for thermal or human comfort. So number 2 naman is gaano ba kalaki yung space or structure that is actually being heated. So ang tingin natin dito is that the larger the space, the greater amount of heat energy. So third one is the energy efficiency of the structure. So okay ba yung tinutukoy natin building materials? Yung mga building materials ba natin are considered to be conductors or insulators of heat. So last one is eventually magde-decide din dito is yung efficiency ng heating system that is actually to be used. So heating systems may be classified into three, and these are the following. So first one, we have the so-called central heating systems. Another one is we have the so-called direct heating systems. And then nowadays, ito na ngayon, no, meron tayong tinatawag na state-of-the-art heating systems. So sa central heating systems, meron tayong furnaces, boilers, as well as heat pumps. On the part of direct heating systems, we have gas-fired space heaters, electric space heaters, wood burning, and then pellet stoves. Then last one, we have fireplaces. Then on the part of the state-of-the-art heating systems, we have radiant floor heat systems, mini split heat systems, and then last one, you have combined heat and then power systems. So unahin na natin yung central heating systems. Central heating systems are heating systems that has a heating source and then makes use of a system of ducts, pipes, or tubes. So a central heating system may make use of heating systems in the form of a furnace, which is the most typical heating systems that are used in the US or North America. So ano ba yung tinutukoy natin furnace? Yung furnace is considered to be an enclosed structure that contains a heat exchanger. So pwede siyang plates or tubes. And then meron tayong agitator in the form of fan or blower. So pag sinabi natin agitator, ito yung nagkakalat to better distribute yung heated air. So either using electricity, natural gas, or other fuels as the heating medium. So paano ba gumagana yung tinutukoy nating furnaces? So furnaces work by blowing air across heated plates or heated tubes known as heated exchangers. So this takes place by a conduction, kasi meron tayong solid, and then since meron tayong process ng gases, meron din tayong tinatawag na convection, mode of heat transfer. So natatransfer ito onto the passing air across such heat exchangers, which is conveyed via the so-called ducts or discharged via the so-called air registers or what is known as grills. So yung mga nakikita nyo dito sa may configuration natin, yung naka-encircle dito, ito yung tinutukoy nating air registers or grills known as the so-called discharge vents. So again, sa loob ng furnaces natin, meron tayong mga heat exchanger plates or tubes that are either heated by electricity or by products of combustion. So, passing air being supplied by fans or blowers receives the heat from the electricity or products of combustion by the so-called heat exchanger plates or tubes. So, combustion gases in the form of flue gases are eventually discharged by a separate vent. So, para ma-prevent natin yung possible contamination. So, older versions of atmospheric furnaces eventually waste around 30% of heat energy. So, nadi-discharge lamang to doon sa tinutukoy natin mga passageway. So, a normal passageway ng mga discharge gases natin are what is known as what we call chimneys. So, bakit ba kailangan mag-waste tayo around 30%? So, bakit ba hindi po pwedeng around 20% or even less? So, this is actually necessary to maintain the warmth or flue gases. So, again, kinakailangan natin ma-maintain yung difference in densities para magkaroon tayo ng buoyancy for it to be able to rise and then be discharged safely into the atmosphere. So nowadays, with the advent or with the introduction of newer and then safer technologies, we have much energy efficient furnaces that makes use of an induced fan to retrieve or pull some of those wasted heat o yung tinutukan natin flue gases. So ang purpose ng fan natin dito also enhances the draft or natural movement of flue gases along the chimney. So, dual purpose yung use fan natin which is located at the point of exit of the so-called flue gases. So, we have here a photo showing the internal parts or configuration of a typical furnace and then that of a high-efficient furnace. So, again, notice na meron tayong process na tinutukoy nating fan or blower, yung green figure dito no, sa may right side natin. So, yun yung nagko-contribute sa pagtaas ng efficiency ng ating available gas furnaces in the market with the use of an induced draft fan. So, another one is meron tayong tinatawag na boiler. Boilers are water heaters that are often called hydronic systems. So, it transfers heat via heated air onto water. So, yung system natin is a closed loop, so walang tapon. With the use or spent warm water being recirculated once again into the boiler to generate hot or heated water. So, residential boilers typically uses natural gas as its fuel, so this being cleaner compared to other kinds of fuel. So, sa case ng boilers, it makes use of a vast network of insulated pipes. So, bakit kinakailangan insulate natin? So, basically, para ma-maintain natin yung pinaka-efficiency ng boiler, kinakailangan insulate natin yung pipes. Kasi nga, tingin natin, since medyo mataas yung temperature discrepancy from the inside compared to the outside, lumalabas, magkakaroon tayo ng transfer of heat. So, other than making use of insulated pipes, meron din tayong tinatawag ng thermostats, other controls, and then most importantly, pumps, no? So, para ma-pump natin yung hot or heated water inside of duct networks, and then fans. Like furnaces, it has a supply and then return lines. So, another one is meron tayong tinatawag ng heat pumps. So, ito yung last do sa tinutukoy nating central heating systems. So, heat pumps are the opposite of AC units or yung tinutukoy nating air conditioning units in that they salvage or locate heat energy within the surrounding and then eventually pump this into the inside of a structure. Yung scavenging or locating of heat in the outside surrounding is made possible by the use of electrical systems. So, yung heat may be sourced via the following. So, yung heat pwede manggaling from the ambient air or atmospheric air. So, yung heat din pwede siyang manggaling from the sewer. O pwede din manggaling yung heat natin from the surface of the soil or surface of the ground. Then, pwede din manggaling yung heat natin coming from the underground water or top water. Then, last one, ito yung pinaka-most efficient. Yung heat natin may come from the underground. So, bakit pinaka-most efficient? Kasi nga, basically, year-round, constant yung corresponding temperature coming from the underground. Now, there are two common types of heat pumps. So, the first one, we have the so-called air source heat pumps. So, these are the very same type of split type of air conditioning units that supplies cold conditioned air in the summer and then heated or hot air during the winter. So, mas common to, no? Compared to the other kind, being the ground source. So, heat pumps they are considered to be much cheaper and then easier to install. So, kagandahan nitong air source heat pumps is basically wala tayong sisirain. So, pwede natin i-mount doon sa existing structure. So, tinagurian itong supplemental assembly. So, yung ground source heat pumps naman are also known as what we call geothermal, geo-exchange, or GX heat pumps. So, kinukuha nila yung heat coming from the ground or underground where temperatures are considered to be constant year-round, unlike in the case of atmospheric air. So, ang problema lang natin dito sa ground source heat pumps is that they are considered to be much expensive and then complicated in terms of assembly. So, pinakonsider nila natin sila as disruptive. So, sabihin, kung meron tayong existing structure, kailangan na natin sila sirain before magkaroon tayo ng assembly. So, these are considered to be much efficient and then preferred to by individuals who wish to stay longer in such a place, making use of such heating systems. So, yung ground source heat pumps require a loop to be buried in trenches sa mga hukay, no? Or via boreholes. Yung mga boreholes natin are around 3 to 6 feet underneath the ground. So, yung disadvantages nito are the following. So, technically, since mangangailangan tayo ng heat coming from the ground, it requires a large investment. Another one is, yung sinabi ko sa inyo kanina, disruptive siya. So, kung meron tayong existing structure dito, kinakailangan natin siyang sirain before natin may assemble siya doon sa actual location. And then, last one is that para makapag-harness tayo ng large amounts of heat, it requires a large tract of space. So, not suitable for small gardens. So, meron din tayong mga cases kung saan yung ground source heat pumps natin also source heat from water underneath the ground. And to be able to maintain such equilibrium, ang ginagawa natin dito is ibinabalik natin yung used water back into the underground or back into the aquifer. So, bakit kinakailangan natin ibalik? So, kung nare-recall nyo yung Mount Pinatubo, ang sinasabi nila ng reason kung bakit na-disturb yung pagiging dormant volcano or sleeping volcano ni Mount Pinatubo is basically meron mga ongoing drillings para makapag-harness o makapagtayo ng geothermal plants sa location nila. So basically, na-disturb nila yung natural equilibrium. So, useful notes that are considered to be worth remembering. Of the three types of heating systems, yung heat pumps are considered to be the most efficient because electricity in a heat pump setting is used to move heat rather than to generate heat. So another one is that heat pumps have a higher COP, known as what we call the coefficient of performance. So normally, ang ratio number nito nagpo-falls to sa 1.5 to 3.5, which is basically mataas, suggesting its ability to be able to deliver more energy rather than a consumer of energy. So, meron tayong tinatawag na direct heating systems. More or less, ang direct heating systems natin is more on the aesthetic side. So, direct heating systems have a lower heating efficiency and that it does not make use of any system of ducts or ductings, and then it provides direct heating only on the place of its assembly or location. So, a gas-fired space heater, it includes a wall-mounted, freestanding, and then floor furnaces, all characterized by their lack of ductwork or no ductwork at all, and then relatively small heat output. So basically, pang small spaces lamang to, o parang pang isang room lang to. So as they lack ductworks, they are most useful for warming a single room. So kung mag-heat tayo na several rooms, ang tendency is kinakailangan natin iwan buksan yung mga doors or kinakailangan gumamit tayo na additional heating method. So, yung models na to can make use of either natural gas or propane. Kasi nga, technically, wala siyang masyadong ini-emit na bad odor. Or no bad odor is being emitted with the burning of such gas. So, another one is meron tayong tinatawag na electric space heaters. Electric space heaters are considered to be portable electronic device heaters that power up heating coils, making use of fans to disperse air across heating coils to eventually produce heated or hot air. So, ang problema natin dito is that they are large consumers of electricity, this despite their small portable size. So, ang bola nito is nasa heating coil as well as nando sa fan or blower. So, another one is meron tayong tinatawag na wood burning and then pellet stoves. So, dalawa itong klaseng to, isa may cover, isa walang cover. Pagka may cover, ito na yan, wood burning and pellet stoves. So, are like a fireplace in that it has a transparent glass cover. So, ano yung purpose ng transparent glass cover? It prevents smoke from contaminating the heated space. So, mainly, ang ginagamit natin dito is chunks of wood as well as other combustible pellets as its source of fuel. Fireplace naman tayo, no? So, the last of the direct heating systems are the so-called fireplaces. So, this is considered to be a much simpler version of the wood burning and then pellet stove in that it has no transparent glass cover. So, tanong dito is, hindi ba aamoy? So, hindi masyado maamoy. So, technically, ito yung ancestor of all heating systems in that all North American homes basically has this simple heating system. So, yung pinaka-main drawback natin dito is its low heating efficiency as compared to the other kinds of heating systems. So, doon na tayo sa last kind of heating system. So, nowadays, gaya ng sabi sa inyo, with the advent of safer and then newer technologies, meron tayong tinatawag na state-of-the-art heating systems. So, ang state-of-the-art heating systems are technologically advanced and then highly efficient heating systems are considered to be expensive and then very complicated in terms of yung installation. So, basically, bumabawi na lang tayo dito in terms of their corresponding efficiency. So, examples ay tinutukoy natin radiant floor heaters. So, a typical heating system uses vents that are located above the head. So, in this case, sa radiant floor heaters, ang radiant floor heaters natin are located at the floor or at the bottom. So, this may be available by any of the following classes. So, hydronic heating floors, heated air floors, and the last one, electric radiant floors, which are installed underneath floors. So, gumagamit siya ng system of tubes, pipes, or heating elements underneath such floors. So, unahin muna natin yung ating heated air floors. So, air-heated radiant floors. Heated air floors are somehow inefficient and thus are not very much considered nowadays. So, ano reason? So, this is due to the air's inability to be able to absorb more heat unlike water. Another one is mas mababa, since mas mababa yung heating capacity ng air, heated air floors are likely to be able to generate more heat in the night time where temperatures are considered to be the lowest. So, hindi nasasabayan o hindi nabibigay yung tamang heating capacity. So, another one is meron tayong tinatawag na electric radiant floors, which makes use of electric heating cables that are built into floors. So, again, in this case, it requires a disruptive installation. Supposedly, meron tayo existing structure, kinakailangan sirain. So, kung wala man, kinakailangan hukayin yung pinaka-flooring natin. So, this one is very hard to maintain. Bakit? As the dust are needed to be removed from such heating systems in order to be accessed during maintenance. So, compared to fuel-based heaters, ang electric radiant floors are considered to be very much more expensive. So, meron din tayong tinatawag na hydraulic radiant floors. Hydraulic radiant floors, from the word hydro, it makes use of heated or hot water coming from a boiler that is being transmitted along tubes or pipes that are located underneath tiles or cement. So, ito yung pinaka-most popular and then pinaka-most cost-effective type of radiant floor heaters for heating dominated climates. So, ito yung pinaka-most popular. So, another one is meron tayong tinatawag na mini-split heat pumps. Mini-split heat pumps is another kind of state-of-the-art heating systems. So, these are basically split type of air conditioning units that lower the temperature of air during the summer and then eventually increase the temperature of air during the winter. So, dalawa pala ang purpose ng AC split type of air conditioning units do sa US. So, pwede siyang heater, pwede hindi siyang conditioner. So, as the word being used is split. So, meaning, meron siyang indoor as well as outdoor unit. So, ano to? So, these are considered to be ductless types of heating systems as there is no need for ducting system since the indoor unit to where the heated air to be discharged is actually mounted on the room or site itself, meaning di na tayo gagamit ng ducting. So, kailangan natin ng cable para doon sa ating mga electrical wirings. So, it may extend up to 4 condensing units, thus are able to heat the whole house itself. So, last one is meron tayong tinatawag na CHP or Combined Heat and Power. So, also known as cogeneration or hybrid type of heating and may be termed as the future of heating spaces. So, ano meron sa CHP or Combined Heat and Power? It makes use of a small generator of heat and then eventually recover niya yung wasted heat. So, sabihin, wala na masyadong tapon. So, around 70% of the higher heating value of the fuel being used is eventually being reused. So, ginagamit to heat the air and the water inside houses. So, sabihin, bumababa yung losses dahil meron tayong recovery. So, such heating concept are to be used in tutukoy natin district heating systems. So, basically, para meron tayo ditong power plant. So, like an overblown central heating system that is used to supply heated air, heated water, hindi lamang sa isang room o sa isang house, but over a large area, usually being a city. So, yung pinaka-last slide natin, so, yung district type of heating makes use of a vast network of insulated underground pipes. So, again, insulated kasi nga piniprevent natin yung possible heat loss, di ba, or heating. So, for the distribution from the supply plant eventually to the end consumers. So, watch out for this technology in the coming generations. So, this eventually concludes my presentation about heating fundamentals as well as heating systems. So, thanks everyone for watching and then listening. So, maraming pong salamat ulit sa inyo lahat. Thank you!